In this video, I'm taking a post-it note repeat that I made and I'm going to turn it into a digitized pattern. So as you can see, I took a picture of it and I tried to put it kind of straight, but there's a little bit of warping going on. If you scan it, you don't have to worry as much about this stage, so that might be easier. But if you do have any warping, you're gonna have to fix that first. So what I'm gonna do is make sure my layers menu is visible to you so that you can see every step. Okay, so the layers menu is visible. Everything's on the background now. What I'm gonna do is double click on that layer to turn it into a free floating layer so that I can remove it from the background. And then I'm going to use the marquee tool here, the second tool, and I'm going to select just outside of the artwork so that I can go to layer and new layer via cut. So that's going to take the selection and put it on its own layer, and then I can get rid of the background layer. And as you can see along the edge of my file, there are rulers. If you don't see the rulers, you can go to View and make sure Rulers is highlighted. I need those because I'm going to click and drag within the ruler to pull down a guide, and that's going to show me what straight looks like. So I'm going to pull those over, and that's going to be an easy way to see if I'm straightening this out properly, and go down to there. So after I've done that, I can go to Edit, Transform, and then Warp. And you'll notice that there's a, well, you might not be able to see it that well, but there's a light blue grid falling on top of my artwork. And any area in here that I move is going to move in relationship to the grid. So it's like a mesh that allows me to move it around, and I can move it on the corners as well. So I'm basically just going to bring it down by clicking and dragging gently and bringing things into alignment with the guides. And I really don't have to do it perfectly because I'm just using this to trace on top of. But the other thing to know about warping is that once you've got it sort of roughly in place, you can hit Enter on your keyboard and then go in again and do some tweaking. It's hard to do a lot of tweaking without hitting Enter and going back in because it tends to over warp it. But we'll go here and here. That's bringing it a little bit closer. But again, since this is a tracing, you really don't need to do a perfect job. I'm going to hit Enter on the keyboard. I'm going to select inside the lines, and I'm going to crop it. So now I have the repeat unit. I'm going to clear the guides. I'm going to deselect. And now I'm going to digitize this into 2 repeats by 2 repeats. Image, canvas size, and I'm going to go 200%. You may have noticed there how big this image is, and that's because I took a photograph of it instead of scanning it. So I've added 200% space on the right and the bottom, and now I'm going to duplicate this. The easiest way to duplicate a layer is go to the Move tool, and then I'm going to hold the Option key down, and it turns it into a double arrow so that when I'm holding the Option key down and click, it just duplicates what I click on. Just a very quick way of duplicating a layer. And you can see that I wasn't too worried about lining things up, but I'm going to fix that in my trace. So now I'm going to merge these all down. So layer, flatten image. And when I say in your homework that you have to make it 200%, I want you to remember that photographing it is going to make it really, really big. Scanning it will be true size. So the Post-its are 3 inches each, so it's easy to know that this is supposed to be 12 inches in real life, which means that if I want it to be 200%, I can make it 24 inches wide. Okay, so you do not want to have to trace some massive 70-inch artwork. Now that I have 2 repeats by 2 repeats, I actually want to only trace one repeat unit of it. So you could print this out at 24 inches on cheap paper, or, multiple pages, and tape them together if you want to. But what you want to do when you're tracing it to recreate the artwork with actual line work is figure out where the exact repeat is instead of doing the whole thing. So one thing you could do is add another layer here and maybe use like an obnoxious color to outline the area that you actually are going to work on. So I'm going to start up here in the upper left hand corner and just kind of go down and around the motifs. And you can see I've already included this, so I do not need to draw this. And this way you're almost making like a puzzle piece so that you could trace it and then put it back together in a way that doesn't mean drawing the same thing twice. So if you wanted to, you could draw something like that and then just print it out. And I would say printing it out in a grayscale so that you can do it cheaply would be good, because you can still see all the information that you need. And so, going in and then tracing all of the elements that I just outlined is going to be easier than doing it all twice. So that puzzle piece, once I have it, I'm going to back up just so I can show you something really that you're not going to do, but it's going to make it clearer. So this is the area that I would then be working with. And again, you're just putting the outline there. You don't have to do this step, but this is just to show you that this puzzle piece actually repeats into a pattern. And you can see here that I did accidentally do the same thing twice. So that would be me, kind of making more work than I needed to. I'll show you here how it locks together and overlaps here. So you might want to check it before you start drawing, because why do more than you have to? I'll go back to where it was, and you can see that if I got rid of this motif, it would leave me with just drawing one of everything. Yeah, that makes more sense. So that is how you isolate the repeat after you digitize it, and doing a half drop is going to be the same process.